The Last Word with Jonathan Capehart in for Lawrence starts right now. Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, Jen, you just caught me. I was sending you a text message because I just took a picture of us in the frame during the commercial break.
Good. Well, good. Well, I'll text you back, not during the show, when it's over.
Oh, please do. I multitask.
Okay, perfect. I know you do.
All right, Jen. Have a good night.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
So, Donald Trump is trying to claim victory for the temporary ceasefire with Iran in a war that he started that has achieved nothing. In a post just after midnight, Donald Trump called it, quote, a big day for world peace, just hours after threatening to kill an entire civilization of people. This morning, it was Pete Hegseth's turn to compliment Donald Trump for not following through on Trump's threat to commit war crimes against the people of Iran.
President Trump had the power to cripple Iran's entire economy in minutes. But he chose mercy. He spared those targets because Iran accepted the ceasefire under overwhelming pressure. The new Iranian regime understood that a deal was far better than the fate that awaited them.
Donald Trump added, quote, the United States of America will be helping with the traffic buildup in the Strait of Hormuz. There will be lots of positive action. Big money will be made. Iran can start the reconstruction process. We'll be loading up with supplies of all kinds and just hanging around in order to make sure that everything goes well. I feel confident that it will. The New York Times reports that the ceasefire, quote, resolved none of the fundamental issues that led to the war. It leaves a theocratic government backed by the vicious Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in charge of a cowed population still under the thumb of a familiar regime, even if under new management. It leaves Iran's nuclear stockpile in place, including the 970 pounds of near bomb-grade material that was, in theory, the casus belli of this war. And Iran reportedly still remains in control of the Strait of Hormuz. The Wall Street Journal reports, quote, Iran told mediators it would limit the number of ships crossing the Strait of Hormuz to around a dozen a day and charge tolls under the ceasefire. Ships that pass will have to coordinate with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the powerful paramilitary group that has been labeled a terrorist organization by the U.S. and the European Union, Arab mediators said. When asked by Jonathan Karl of ABC News about the Iranians charging a toll for all ships that go through the Strait of Hormuz, Donald Trump said, quote, we're thinking of doing it as a joint venture. It's a way of securing it, also securing it from lots of other people. It's a beautiful thing. Sure, Donald. Let's add more confusion to this fragile ceasefire of your own making. For starters, it's unclear if the Strait of Hormuz is even open right now. According to the Associated Press, Iranian state media reports that Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz again today in retaliation after Israel continued attacking Lebanon, killing at least 182 people and wounding hundreds more. According to officials, the highest single-day death toll in the Israel-Hezbollah war. Iranian officials have maintained that the deal was supposed to include Lebanon, while Israel and the U.S. have insisted that it does not. Iran's foreign minister retweeted the post from Pakistan, who mediated the deal, showing its inclusion of Lebanon, adding, quote, the Iran-U.S. ceasefire terms are clear and explicit. The U.S. must choose ceasefire or continued war via Israel. It cannot have both. The White House press secretary disputed that today.
That is completely unacceptable. And again, this is a case of what they're saying publicly is different privately. We have seen an uptick of traffic in the Strait today, and I will reiterate the president's expectation and demand that the Strait of Hormuz is reopened immediately, quickly, and safely.
But the New York Times reports, quote, no oil or gas tankers have traversed the strait since the ceasefire was struck on Tuesday, according to data provided to the New York Times by Kepler, a global ship tracking firm. 4 bulk carriers, vessels that carry dry cargo, did make it through. Since those reports, no vessels have appeared to cross the strait, according to Kepler's data. The most recent vessel to cross the waterway, a cargo ship, was tracked in the middle of the strait around 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday, according to the maritime data. So, the Strait of Hormuz remains worse off today than before Donald Trump started his pointless war. There's also confusion over Iran's 10-point plan for a peace deal that Donald Trump last night called a, quote, workable basis on which to negotiate. The New York Times reports Iran released its version of the proposal the morning after the United States and Iran agreed to a 2-week ceasefire and calls for American troops to leave the region, reasserts Iran's control over the strategic Strait of Hormuz, and maintains Iran's right to nuclear enrichment. Much of it consisted of maximalist demands that looked difficult, if not impossible, to reconcile with U.S. aims. A White House official said the points do not match what Mr. Trump was referring to. When asked about Iran's 10-point plan in a phone interview with Sky News, Donald Trump responded, "You don't know what the points are. I know what they are," according to Sky News. He added, "Many of the points are very good, and most of them have been fully negotiated. If it isn't good, we'll go right back to it very quickly." The Speaker of Iran's parliament accused the United States and Israel of violating other points of that plan, including denial of Iran's right to enrichment. On that point, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said this today.
It's always been non-negotiable that they won't have nuclear capabilities. And so right now it's buried and we're watching it. We know exactly what they have, and they know that. And they will either give it to us, which the president has laid out. They'll give it to us voluntarily. We'll get it. We'll take it out. Or if we have to do something else ourselves, like we did in Midnight Hammer or something like that, we reserve that opportunity.
Vice President J.D. Vance, who is set to lead a U.S. delegation for in-person talks in Pakistan this weekend, said this.
If Iran wants to let this negotiation fall apart in a conflict where they were getting hammered over Lebanon, which has nothing to do with them and which the United States never once said was part of the ceasefire, that's ultimately their choice. We think that would be dumb, but that's their choice. Fundamentally, we're in a good spot. They're reopening the straits. We have a ceasefire. And frankly, if they break their end of the bargain, then they're going to see some serious consequences.
So even if this ceasefire holds, what has Donald Trump gotten out of his war with Iran that killed 13 U.S. service members, thousands of civilians, and roiled global energy markets? As Bloomberg notes today, quote, "At first glance, not much. The same core challenges remain. The most obvious thing Trump got, the potential reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, at best restores the status quo and might not even do that. Meanwhile, Trump's erratic month as a wartime president and his frantic search for an off-ramp will color how enemies and allies deal with him going forward." The top Democrat in the Senate, Chuck Schumer of New York, put it this way, quote, "Trump is a military moron. His war with a price tag of $44 billion and $4 plus gas made us worse off today than we were when he started it." And Nobel Prize winning economist Paul Krugman sums up where the U.S. stands today because of Donald Trump's war this way. Quote, "We've also destroyed our moral credibility. Trump may have tacoed at the last minute, but he threatened to commit gigantic war crimes. And for all practical purposes, our political and civil institutions gave him permission to do so." Leading off our discussion tonight, Congresswoman Madeleine Dean, Democrat of Pennsylvania. She is a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congresswoman, always good to see you. Thank you for coming to The Last Word. So after all this damage, this death, when you look at where things are, is Iran in a stronger or weaker position than it was before this war started?
I'll tell you that the world is in a weaker position. America is in a weaker position, not because of the excellence of our military, don't get me wrong, but because of the erratic, mad nature of this president. And clearly, Iran recognizes as much devastation as it has suffered, the decapitation of the Ayatollah, that none of us is sorry about. Iran has not lost much at all, and in fact controls the Strait of Hormuz, is profiting now in ways greater than it had before from the sale of its oil, the president having lifted sanctions on them, and the control that it has gotten. The president has just flailed about, showed himself to be unhinged, unwell. And I don't like saying that, but it is so very obvious to me as a citizen and to our allies and foes around the world. Iran isn't winning, but the United States is not winning either. And I keep thinking of children in the rubble, children terrified in Iran. And I remember being in Denmark as President Trump was trying to take Greenland, a NATO ally's territory, and learning from the prime ministers there of Greenland and of Denmark that the children there are terrified of America. Is this really what this president wants? To be remembered for rubble, destruction, and terrified children around the world, including right here in the United States?
Congresswoman, with so many details still unclear, how confident are you that this 2-week ceasefire will hold? And do you have confidence this administration can resolve this war and end the fighting?
Of course, I don't have any confidence. That's what's so sad. We want a commander-in-chief who's in command, who has his faculties with him, and who is surrounded by the best of the best. He has General Kane, Chairman Kane. I'm very relieved and happy for that. I've had the chance to meet with him several times. But the others around him are sycophants, are yes men and women, now some of them dismissed. So no, none of us can have a confidence. And Jonathan, I can't get over what happened Sunday. What the president tweeted Sunday, Easter morning. We should never allow anyone to get away with that kind of blasphemous, profane conversation. That's a statement from the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, that is grotesquely un-American. And I call upon my Republican colleagues, why are they so silent? Why aren't they, like I and many others, who are saying it's time for the 25th Amendment? Of course, this president should have been impeached before and is eligible for impeachment now. But where are they? Why can't they say this is beyond the pale? And then for him to have said, honest to God, I think this was Monday morning. At 5:06 in the morning, President Donald Trump posted on social media, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. Where are the Republicans? Where is the vice president? Where are the secretaries? Where is the 25th Amendment?
Well, on that point, Congresswoman, I mean, you have called on the cabinet, as you just now did, but you have been calling on the cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment, and House Democrats will attempt to introduce a war powers resolution. Is there even enough support for either one of those things?
I hope so. I think we're crossing a Rubicon that even Republicans, I hope, actually recognize is so dangerous to our democracy and much more dangerous to this world. You remember the anxiety of last night? You imagine every one of us wondering what will happen in the hours leading up to 8 o'clock because a madman is in control? Please, folks, let's recognize this man is unhinged and he is unwell. It is recognizable to every single one of us citizens. And it's time we do something. We are going to be, I'll go to DC tomorrow and be a part of introducing Ranking Member Meek's War Powers Resolution. Of course, Congress has the responsibility, the duty, and the president has the responsibility, the duty to have come to us before launching into this war of choice. Remember, war is usually a last resort. War in this dangerous theater should have been an extraordinary last resort. But this president recklessly, knowing conversations were going on, diplomatic conversations were going on, decided to launch into this war. I think very much egged on by Mr. Netanyahu from the very dramatic reporting that we are seeing from Maggie Haberman and others. And so I hope our War Powers Resolution is successful to reclaim our Article 1 responsibility to declare war or to deny the president the right to go to war. The Speaker of the House has been just shrinking in his responsibilities. I don't know how he rests at night.
And to your point, that excellent reporting that you're talking about is from Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan. It is on the front page of the New York Times. And folks who are watching, if you have not read it yet, read it, and you will more fully understand what Congresswoman Madeleine Dean was just talking about. Congresswoman, as always, thank you very much for coming to The Last Word.
Thanks, Jonathan, for inviting me.
Coming up, it is time to remove Donald Trump from the presidency. History is watching. Do the right thing. Those are the words of one Oversight Committee member today. The calls for the 25th Amendment are increasing. As you just heard from Congresswoman Madeleine Dean, we will see if any Republicans who are seeing poll after poll showing that they are headed for a midterm blowout will decide it's time to stand up to Trump. And that's next. House Democrats say they will hold a briefing on Friday on how they plan to hold the Trump administration accountable as calls grow within the party to remove Donald Trump from office using the 25th Amendment. In a video posted online, Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury, a member of the House Oversight Committee, lays out that argument in stark terms.
Today, the United States stands at a crossroad. It is time to remove Donald Trump from the presidency. The President of the United States used his social media platform to threaten to wipe a civilization from the face of the planet. Let us be clear. Not only is this activity unbefitting a President of the United States, but it is the threat of actual crimes against humanity and war crimes under international law. And it is clear that Donald Trump is no longer, nor has he ever been, fit to serve as president of this United States and as the commander-in-chief. And so that is why I am calling for the invocation of the 25th Amendment by the cabinet, why I am calling for the impeachment by Congress, and why I am calling for the passage of a War Powers Resolution in Congress to stop this president right now. But that requires the cabinet to act. And so we are calling on our Republican colleagues in the cabinet, we are calling on our Republican colleagues in the Congress to do the right thing for this country, for the American people, and for the safety and well-being of millions across this planet. This is the moment. History is watching. Do the right thing.
House Oversight Democrats are also threatening to begin contempt proceedings against fired Trump Attorney General Pam Bondi after, surprise, surprise, the Justice Department told the Oversight Committee that Bondi does not have to comply with the subpoena and testify about the Epstein files next week, since she's no longer working in the Trump administration. Joining us now is Democratic Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury of New Mexico. She is a member of the House Oversight Committee. Congresswoman, very powerful video you put out. We just played big chunks of it. Today, the path to impeachment runs through the Republican-controlled Congress, and the 25th Amendment runs through the Trump cabinet. What do you say to voters who say, yeah, it'll never happen?
Well, I think we have to be clear and use every tool, every platform, and our voices to continue to speak up, to speak out, and to take action for an administration that we know is daily violating the rights of Americans, it's violating international law, and a president that is completely out of control, because silence is deadly. Silence is not an option. And so I understand the frustration of the American people, but our only option as a free country is to use our voices to ask our Republican colleagues to act. And so we have to use every tool we have, whether that is asking the cabinet to take action to remove a president that is clearly unfit, whether that is putting pressure on our Republican colleagues in Congress to take action to rein in the president through impeachment and through a war powers resolution, and to ask voters who are showing up not just in November in this midterm election, but are showing up weekly for special elections all across the country to use your voice and your vote to tell this president and this regime that we are not going to stand for the abuses that are happening here in the United States right now.
Congresswoman, if Republicans keep enabling Trump, what will Democrats do if they win control of Congress in November to hold Trump accountable next year?
Well, clearly, one of our key goals is to reestablish the checks and balances that were put into place by the Constitution, and which our Republican colleagues are failing to uphold in this moment. And so among the things that we must do, in my personal opinion, is that we must proceed to impeach the president. We must impeach any cabinet official or official who is enabled illegal and unconstitutional behavior. And I believe that whatever administration comes in after this administration has to take seriously the prosecution of any crimes. It's not just enough for Congress to investigate individuals who have committed crimes against U.S. citizens, against immigrants, against war crimes internationally, need to be held accountable under the law.
All right, let's talk about now former Attorney General Pam Bondi. In response to the Trump DOJ attempting to block Pam Bondi from testifying to the House Oversight Committee, you said, "I hope she is ready to face contempt. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you at your deposition. AG or not, those responsible for this cover-up will be held accountable. The survivors deserve justice." Congresswoman, what do you believe they are trying to prevent from coming out?
Well, it's very clear that since day one, Pam Bondi has been at the top of a snake that is trying to essentially engage in the largest cover-up in American history with the Epstein files. And in order to do that, she has lied to the American people. She has hidden files. She has failed to comply with a congressional subpoena from last year. She has failed to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. And she has lied to the American public and conducted herself in such a way that she must be held accountable. And so we have subpoenaed her. It is a lawful subpoena. She is now trying to use her attorney general, who has taken her place, to shield her from having to come and testify. And we are not going to stand for it. We plan to bring up a vote to hold her in contempt if she doesn't show for her deposition. And if she doesn't, then she will be referred for contempt, which has criminal consequences.
Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury of New Mexico, thank you very much for coming to The Last Word.
Absolutely.
Coming up, as Donald Trump is searching for a way out of the war he started with Iran, your gas prices are still going up. Today, it costs you $4.16 a gallon to fill up your tank, and experts don't see much relief coming in the near future. That's just part of how Trump's war is costing you. We're going to be talking about that next with Congressman Brendan Boyle. Donald Trump said just 1 week ago that once his war on Iran ends, quote, that gas prices will rapidly come back down. Today, they went up. Despite the United States agreeing to a 2-week ceasefire, rapidly is not a word analysts would use to describe how quickly gas prices will fall. As the fragile ceasefire continues to be tested, CNBC reports energy and commodity markets are likely to remain on a structurally higher floor regardless of the ceasefire outcome, said BCA Research's Matt Gertkin. As governments hoard and restock in anticipation of renewed conflicts, keeping oil and gas prices elevated well above pre-war levels, even in a scenario where shipping resumes. According to AAA, the national average for a gallon of regular gas rose today to $4.16, up from $2.98 just before the United States and Israel launched their war on Iran, and up 91 cents from a year ago. Axios reports Iran agreed to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, but the economic fallout from 5 weeks of effective closure is just beginning. Supply chains don't unsnarl overnight. The gloomiest forecasts for the U.S. economy from the war may not come to pass, but shortages and price shocks will continue to pinch the world for months. There are real prospects that Iran will now effectively tax shipments through the strait indefinitely, creating a new constraint on the global supply of oil and other commodities that didn't exist before the war. Traders don't see prices falling back to pre-war levels this year, according to forward-looking oil futures contracts, suggesting higher energy prices for months to come. The price surge comes alongside shortages for fertilizer, helium, and other critical inputs that might continue to hamstring global manufacturers. The Washington Post reports, as long as fuel prices remain elevated, grocery prices on shelves are also expected to increase in coming months as the effects of rising energy and fertilizer costs filter down to consumers. The first items to see those upticks could be perishable foods such as berries, dairy, and meat, which often require refrigeration during transportation. This morning, Donald Trump threatened tariffs for countries helping Iran, posting, quote, "A country supplying military weapons to Iran will be immediately tariffed on any and all goods sold to the United States of America, 50%, effective immediately. There will be no exclusions, no exceptions." Trump, of course, offered no legal basis for how he would enact those tariffs since the Supreme Court, including 2 of the justices he appointed, ruled the Trump tariffs are unconstitutional. Donald Trump also posted, quote, "We are and will be talking tariff and sanctions relief with Iran." Today, Pulitzer Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman writes that Iran won. Quote, "The Iranian regime has emerged far stronger than it was before, controlling the Strait of Hormuz and having demonstrated its ability to inflict damage on both its neighbors and the world economy. The U.S. has emerged far weaker, having demonstrated the limitations of its military technology, its strategic ineptitude, and when push comes to shove, its cowardice." Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Brendan Boyle of Pennsylvania. He is the top Democrat on the House Budget Committee and a member of the House Ways and Means Committee. Congressman Boyle, great to see you. Gas prices aren't going to fall as rapidly as Donald Trump claims they will. In what other ways is Trump's war raising costs for American families?
Well, the increases have been both direct and indirect. So first, in terms of the direct costs, we are now approaching $50 billion total price tag to the U.S. taxpayer. That is a massive sum. To put that in perspective, you remember some months ago the whole debate over whether or not to extend the Obamacare tax credits. Democrats were pushing for this. Republicans refused to do it. Republicans said we couldn't afford it. To do that for 1 year cost $27 billion. So we have already, over the last under 40 days, this has been going on in Iran, we have already spent about double what it would have cost to extend the Obamacare tax premiums and save the health care of millions of Americans. So that's just in terms of direct costs to the taxpayers. But then there are all those other costs, both direct and indirect, such as what you pay at the pump, such as the increased cost of the supermarket because the cost of transportation went up, et cetera, et cetera. And once this takes place, as we learned from the pandemic, once you break something, it can take a very long time to untangle that knot and get everything back online. It took us several years in order to restore the economy fully after the pandemic and fix those broken supply lines, I fear this will take a long time as well.
Well, you know, Congressman Boyle, speaking of how much money has been spent on this war already, Trump's new budget makes deep cuts to domestic programs and would, quote, boost the Pentagon by more than 40% in the fiscal year beginning in October, Politico reports. So, Congressman, in light of this fragile ceasefire and the rise in everyday costs, what do you make of that kind of military spending?
Well, and let's not forget, this is not happening in a vacuum. This takes place some 9 months after Trump and congressional Republicans on a party line basis passed their tax plan over the summer, signed by the president into law the 4th of July. What did that do? It was the largest tax cuts for billionaires in American history, paid for by the largest cuts to health care in American history, the largest cuts to nutrition assistance and education in American history. So we're already going to see, we know, according to the Congressional Budget Office, more than 15 million Americans lose their health care, and that has already begun as of January 1st of this year. Now you have this new, what they call skinny budget proposal from the White House last week, which doubles down on that and says we need even more cuts to health care and education so we can spend more money on the Department of Defense. It is out of whack with what most Americans want today.
Congressman Boyle, your state, the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, voted for Donald Trump in 2024. Any sense of buyer's remorse from voters you've encountered?
Well, you know, it's amazing just how close Pennsylvania always is. We tracked exactly with the national popular vote in 2024. Donald Trump won the state by just over 1 point, while he was winning nationally by just over 1 point. We have also, over the last 3 cycles, moved in pretty close tandem with the states of Michigan and Wisconsin. What we have seen in these special elections in those 3 states I've just cited, including and especially Pennsylvania, over the last 15 months, Democrats are overperforming in these special elections by an average of 16 points. That is remarkable in a state in which typically victory or defeat is determined by 1 point. So if we see an overperformance anywhere like what we saw in Wisconsin last night or what we've seen in recent special elections here in Pennsylvania, if we see anything like that this upcoming November, it would not be a wave election. It would be a blue tsunami.
Congressman Brendan Boyle, I want to thank you for 2 reasons. 1, for coming to The Last Word, and 2, for perfectly setting up our next block. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Coming up, what a difference a year makes. Elon Musk got his proverbial clock cleaned when he tried to buy a conservative victory in last year's Supreme Court election in Wisconsin. And in last night's election, the liberal candidate won by double digits, further protecting the court from conservative control. Ben Wickler, who knows Wisconsin politics inside and out and helped stop Musk in Wisconsin in 2025, he'll join us next. Democrats notched a big win in a key election last night. Another victory in a string of promising election results for Democrats ahead of the 2026 midterms. In Wisconsin, Chris Taylor, the Democratic-backed liberal candidate for the state Supreme Court, won by double digits. The 20-point blowout emphasized the growing Democratic momentum in Wisconsin, a state which Donald Trump won by less than 30,000 votes in 2024. The result is also poised to have a far-reaching impact in Wisconsin beyond this election. Politico reports Taylor's win expands liberals' majority on the Wisconsin Supreme Court to a 5-2 split. The court's liberals have made use of their majority in recent years. In 2023, the court ordered new legislative maps in Wisconsin, effectively ending a GOP gerrymander that had lasted for over a decade. And last July, the panel overturned Wisconsin's 176-year-old abortion ban by a 4-3 majority. Here's Chris Taylor during her victory speech last night.
Once again, Wisconsin showed the entire nation that we believe that the people should be at the center of government. And the priority and the priority of our judiciary, not the billionaires, not the most powerful and privileged, but the people.
And the special election last night in Georgia to fill former Trump loyalist Marjorie Taylor Greene's congressional seat also bodes well for Democrats. Republican Clayton Fuller won the race over Democrat Sean Harris, but his margin of victory fell well short of previous Republican results in the district. CNBC reports the win may offer little solace for Republicans, however, as Democrats overperformed in the contest. Greene carried the district by 29 percentage points in 2024, more than double Fuller's margin of victory. The result could be a good sign for Democrats who are hoping to retain Senator Jon Ossoff's Senate seat in the Peach State to have any chance at gaining a majority in the Senate. Joining us now is Ben Wickler, former Wisconsin Democratic Party chair. Chairman Wickler, nice to see you again. You helped deal Elon Musk a huge defeat when he got involved in a Wisconsin Supreme Court race last year. What are your initial thoughts following last night's huge win for Wisconsin Democrats?
This was a blowout. And this was a blowout that came because thousands of people who are furious about what Trump is doing to this country, how unaffordable he's making life while he's sparking these terrible wars, while he's smashing our democracy and attacking the rule of law itself. People furious about all of that went to the polls, they knocked on doors, they texted their friends, and they delivered a landslide, the likes of which Wisconsin hasn't seen in a very long time. And a landslide that sets up the possibility of a Democratic sweep in November and real change at a moment when people are desperately calling out for it. It's a great, great moment in Wisconsin.
Well, let me show you two maps that we have. We're going to put them up from the New York Times, and they show the shift in voting in this election compared to Wisconsin's 2025 Supreme Court election, where the Democrat-backed candidate won by 10 points, and the 2024 presidential election results, where Donald Trump won the state by less than 30,000 votes. Can you describe the shift in momentum in Wisconsin right now?
It's extraordinary. And you see it in every corner of the state. I love those two maps because they illustrate that this isn't something where the blue areas are getting bluer, but the red areas are getting redder. It's everywhere. You know, last year, Elon Musk spent $56 million of his almost limitless fortune to try to buy Wisconsin's state Supreme Court seat. And Wisconsin voters said no, they would not be bought. That was a 10-point victory for Susan Crawford. Fast forward 1 year. Elon Musk didn't show up. His tail is between his legs when it comes to Wisconsin Supreme Court elections. But the GOP machine, you know, the billionaires who helped fund the Stop the Steal effort in 2020, they put money into ads. They did this and that. And voters doubled the margin of victory. This year, our extraordinary candidate, Chris Taylor, flipped 19 additional counties on top of all the ones that flipped in 2025, including 18 rural counties. These are places where Republicans are used to winning in a walk, and now they voted for Chris Taylor. I think what this shows is that there are people everywhere who are furious about what is happening in this country, and they're taking it into their own hands to do something about it. That's exactly what we need.
So then, Chairman Wickler, Wisconsin will be key for the Democrats to flip the House of Representatives in the midterms. And good, we got them up there. Out of Wisconsin's 8 House seats, 6 are currently held by Republicans. Which seats do you think are most likely to flip Democrat in the fall?
Well, let's start with the 3rd Congressional District. This is a district represented by Derek Van Orden, who has been there with Donald Trump over and over and over, who actually went to Washington, D.C. for the Stop the Steal rally and then got himself elected to Congress in 2022. His district went overwhelmingly for Chris Taylor in the state Supreme Court election just now. My successor, Democratic Party of Wisconsin chair, Devin Remiker, has been crunching the numbers. It looks like the majority, significant majority of congressional districts voted for Chris Taylor in the state Supreme Court race yesterday. So frankly, all of these Republicans are on notice. But the 3rd, I would also say the 1st congressional district, that's Brian Stile. He's a guy who's been holding hearings trying to support these voter suppression bills and stacking up money. Well, that guy is in a purple district. He's acting like he's in an ultra MAGA district, but he's not. And voters have something to say about it, as we saw last night. So this is a moment to be on offense, to expand the map, and to make sure voters see that they actually have the power to do something about the crisis that's unfolding in front of them every day. It can feel kind of powerless to watch the headlines, to watch Trump threatening to destroy civilizations. But voters still have the power, and we still have free and fair elections in states like Wisconsin, which means that we can create change this year like we did last night.
Chair Wickler, I mean, you blew my mind with a little factoid that you said just a moment ago. Basically, you put those 6 Republican members of Congress on notice that their districts, say that again, what was that again? Their districts in that race?
The majority of the Republican-held districts, the congressional districts in Wisconsin last night voted for Chris Taylor for state Supreme Court. This is someone who was in a previous career was a Democratic state legislator who has been a distinguished jurist who takes no guff, no nonsense from right-wing billionaires trying to buy our court system. And she ran an outstanding campaign, and voters in some of the reddest parts of the state, they turned out and they voted for her. Ozaukee County used to be the most Republican county in Wisconsin. It was blue in the state Supreme Court map last night. This is a place that's supposed to be one of the Republican strongholds in the state. This really, I think, demonstrates that something is shifting. There's a tectonic shift in Wisconsin politics, and we don't expect a 20-point landslide in November. But what we're seeing is that people power can overcome the kind of despair that is setting in for so many people in this Trump administration. If you feel like your rights are being taken away, if you're watching abortion bans roll out and voter suppression and ICE agents shooting people in the streets, the cost of gas exploding, you have the power to fight back. We saw that in Wisconsin. We're going to see that across the country this fall.
Ben Wickler, thank you very much for coming, as always, to The Last Word.
Thanks so much for having me.
And tonight's Last Word is next. Finally tonight, we've seen Donald Trump pluck many a media figure out of their jobs and install them into the United States government. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth worked weekend mornings at Fox. Donald Trump's Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, used to be a host of one of the shows on Fox Business before his gig in the Trump cabinet. And we can't forget Jeanine Pirro, who could. She, of course, went from being a host on Fox to her current role as U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. But now, we're seeing a member of the Trump administration go the other way. The Associated Press reports, quote, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is launching a new podcast that he says will begin, quote, a new era of radical transparency in government, according to a teaser video first obtained by the Associated Press. Kennedy bills it as a new way to expose corruption and lies that have made Americans sick. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not too keen to take medical advice from the guy who said this.
I'm not scared of a germ. You know, I used to snort cocaine off of toilet seats.
That is tonight's Last Word.